Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott, I'm the Emperor of Stomaria, and today I want to talk about why Stemaria must succeed. A big question that hangs over the heads of a lot of micronations is, why do you exist? What is your purpose? What is your reason for being? And I think a lot of micronations struggle to answer these basic questions throughout the entirety of their existence. As short and turbulent, or as long and prosperous as it may be. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that micronations can be formed by anyone for any reason. And this, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is, both a blessing and a curse. But the reality is that micronations can be formed for fun, for satire. They can be formed to promote a particular point or a campaign objective, be it regarding the environment or human rights or animal rights or gay rights or whatever the case may be. And then there are micronations like Stemaria, which are looking to build a real-world community, an alternative society, a trade network, sort of a nation within a nation, which, although it might lack genuine independence and genuine sovereignty, is nevertheless building a culture and an identity. And I think even though micronations like Stemaria are probably what most people think micronations are, I do think, having spent some 3 years in the micronational community, that we are in the minority. In that I think a lot of micronations might pay lip service to this idea, but most micronations, they just don't stand the test of time. Or the founders, or the creators, or the citizens of those micronations simply lack the time, the resources, the dedication, the drive to actually accomplish it. And, within the span of months or sometimes even weeks, those micronations just disappear. And of course, a lot of it has to do with the age and maturity of the people that actually establish micronations. You obviously get 9-year-olds and 12-year-olds and even, 20-year-olds that just lack the capacity to actually push these things forward. It's not a universal rule. Of course, there are plenty of young people with micronations that have been quite successful. But by and large, most just die by the wayside. And putting those sort of micronations aside, which pay lip service to the idea of building an alternative society, a real-world community, you get into the point where you have micronations that are led by people who are more mature in the sense that they're, in their late 20s or maybe early 30s or even older than that. And they are making strides towards this goal. But they themselves do struggle at times. But you can see the difference. You can see the micronations led by macronational leaders who are actually determined to try and accomplish something, and those who are just in it for a laugh. Even though they might not say that directly, it might be just a hobby to them. It might just be, something they do in their spare time because it's interesting or cool or something like that. And it sort of dawned on me a little bit because a few people, Stemarian citizens, have mentioned to me, both, well, and mentioned publicly, that I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it without being too crass about it. But micronations like Stemaria, like Wayward, like Molossia, like Moreland, we're a new generation of micronationalists. We're a new generation that are actually looking to accomplish something, to keep on growing, to keep on pushing. And I think that the belief in that the better known micronations of the world have just sort of stagnated and almost sort of accepted the point that they're at and have just left it at that. They have no interest in expansion. They have no interest in development. They're only interested in maintaining what they have. And they might give some, interviews to various media outlets. They might invite people over to, see their territory or talk about their micronation, but there's no real drive to expand much further than what they've already done. And I think this is felt by a lot of micronationalists, not just Stemaria and the micronations that make up Stemaria, but by micronationalists who are up and coming, who do see the state of the community and wonder if, this is it, or if something more can be accomplished, something more genuine, something more lasting, something more real. And I think this is why I'm making this video now, is because I think looking at the community as a whole, I mean, obviously there are thousands of micronations out there, and there's lots of little groups and micronational organizations, and again, it's not easy to keep tabs on absolutely every aspect of the micronational community. In fact, it's virtually impossible. And a lot of micronations obviously won't have an online presence at all, so we will never know about those micronations existing, dissolving, or going through any turbulent or prosperous times that they may have had. But just as we look at what we know, as what we can see, there's just not a lot out there. In fact, I can probably count on one hand the number of micronations that aren't already a part of Stemaria that are striving for the same things as Stemaria, that have the same values and objectives, in the sense that they're looking to acquire private freehold land that they can utilize in order to build a more self-reliant, sustainable community with its own culture and its own identity within the macronation that they reside in, not, necessarily trying to attain genuine sovereignty or recognition. You don't need that for a micronation to be successful, but just building that alternative society. There just aren't that many micronations that are genuinely striving for that, or have the resources and the drive to actually push forward with this idea. And again, it's got me thinking about why I think micronations like Stemaria must succeed. Because Stemaria itself is made up of other micronations. We have, Queen Neve in Molossia. We have King Raoul in Wayward. We have Prince Alexander in Moreland. We have Queen Mika in Norwick. These are all micronationalists and micronational leaders that form a part of Stemaria. And together, we're all pushing for the same thing. We're all driving forward for the same thing. We're trying to build what I've gone over before. We are trying to build that alternative society. And we are, we're making plans almost daily now. I'm, messaging various people, and they're messaging me about ways in which we can sort of drive this forward. And it's all very exciting. It's very new, and it's very inspirational, because it's this culmination of this gathering of micronations which are striving for the same thing. And we are very few and far between as it is, but under one banner, sort of pushing forward with this idea, we are, I think, going to accomplish great things. But the reason I think we have to succeed is because if not us, then who? I mean, I can't honestly think, as I say, of that many micronations that are in the same position that we are in. There are micronations that are more well-known, but being well-known isn't being successful in its own right, especially if it's a micronation that isn't looking to do what we're looking to do. I mean, you have Molossia as a good example, is an extremely well-known micronation, but that's not the sort of micronation that we are. And oddly enough, it's not the sort of thing that I think a lot of people believe a micronation is. I mean, when people think micronation, they don't often think about, a guy in his backyard giving tours and using cookie dough as currency. That's, I don't think, what micronationalism is. It's certainly not what our variant of micronationalism is. And, just to touch on this a bit more, I just think that the different branches, the different variants, the different types of micronation, even though it's, it is a bit of a free-for-all, does make it difficult to identify micronations that are going to be an asset in terms of accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. And this is why Stemaria has to sift through dozens and dozens of, alliance applications and people that are looking to establish mutual recognition treaties and people that want to join the Empire of Stomaria in some capacity. And why we reject so many, because they're not there. They're not on the same page as us. They're not on the same wavelength as us. And trying to identify the diamonds in the rough, trying to identify the micronations that are going to add value to this project is quite difficult. But we have been quite fortunate in recent months in particular to attract the right sort of micronation. And I think sort of as a sort of final point, as a message to the micronations and micronationalists out there that do share Stemaria's vision, that do share Stemaria's drive and ambition, and trying to turn this vision into a reality, then do get in touch, because, as I say, if you're interested in the things that we're interested in, be it in environmentalism, in renewable energy, in our system of government, our system of taxation, our belief in a sound monetary system, or whatever the case may be, then let us know, because we can't sift through every micronation that's ever come into existence. But I'm sure a lot of people out there will know about Stemaria, because Stemaria is a well-established micronation in its own right. It does comprise of some, some well-known and very well-established micronations as well. The Kingdom of Wayward being a very good example of that. They, have been very successful, especially in recent months, in terms of recruiting citizens through Patreon. They've hit 20 citizens as of today, in fact, which is, an unbelievable feat for most micronations out there that actually, look to have citizens that add value to the project. But for those micronations that do want to play a part in Stemaria's growth, its development, its expansion, then do get in touch and let us know, because we are interested in trying to gather as many micronations as we can under one umbrella. It's not about sort of taken over a micronation's culture or identity. In fact, it's a very endearing feature to the micronations that actually join Stemaria, in that I encourage the individual cultures and identities of those micronations to be expressed, because that's not as important to me as creating this homogenous cultural identity. That's not what we're striving for. We're striving for a self-reliant society with common values and common objectives. And the micronations, be they pagan or Christian, be they looking to promote different types of renewable energy, or they might even have different monetary systems. But micronations that are looking to establish the bare bones of what we're looking to establish, those are micronations that we're interested in talking to and bringing on board. Because at the end of the day, Stemaria is, I'm trying to think of a good way of saying this without thinking, without trying to sort of be sort of pompous about it, but Stemaria is becoming a very successful, well-known, well-established and prominent micronation, and the micronations within it are helping to achieve that. And I think it won't be long before more and more people recognise Stemaria And I don't mean Stemaria as in myself, I mean Stemaria as in the culmination of micronations that comprise Stemaria. I don't think it will be long before that realization and that reality sets in, that, you know, Stemaria's empire will be one of the major forces within the micronational community. I don't think that's a very far-fetched vision or reality. I think we're very close to accomplishing that as it is, purely because we have the people, the resources and the drive that are actually making this happen. You know, we have the production of the Stemarian states that are going to be taking place later in the year. We have a meeting of micronational leaders which will be taking place in June. We're having, through Wayward, the utilisation of private freehold land, which includes, you know, the felling of trees, of producing honey, of producing eggs, producing livestock and fruits and vegetables and herbs and other materials like that. And, you know, it's just, we are living the reality of this, where people are coming together, people are utilising, you know, the Stemarian status, people are utilising the resources that are produced on private freehold land. This is a reality that we are living in. What we need to do, though, is keep on pushing. We can't rest on our laurels. We have to drive this forward. We need to drive it forward faster and harder if we can. Because, as I said to King Raoul of Wayward some weeks ago, I had my 32nd birthday in February, and I said to him, it sort of was a very solemn affair, because, I mean, it was a case of I just became very aware of my own mortality, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, because no one promised that I was going to live until 80 or 90 years old. You know, I could only have a few years left for all I know. And I want to be able to build something that I can leave others to continue to build on top of. I want to lay the foundations on which something grander can be built. I want this to be a generational project. I want this to be a generational society. I don't want it to begin and end with me. And, you know, over time, I'm hoping that little Princess Eleanor will eventually, you know, take over the reins, whether or not it's in my lifetime or after I've passed away, is yet to be seen. But that is something that I'm looking to foster and encourage. But, you know, beyond that, I want the micronations that make up Stemaria, like Molossia, like Morland, like Norwich, like Wayward. I want that to be a generational thing. I want the children or the family or the friends of the people that are involved in those micronations now to take over the reins when the time comes. I want this to be built on top of one another. I need this to succeed. This is going to be our legacy. This is going to be, you know, written into the history books. And yeah, this video has gone on a lot longer than I intended it to. I am just a bit rambling at the moment, as I normally do, going off my various tangents. But I just wanted to reiterate as clearly as I can, and, you know, often repeating myself if I have to, that I need this to succeed. We need this to succeed. Because without Stemaria, without the micronations that comprise Stemaria, without the people involved in Stemaria, what else is there? If there are micronations or micronationalists or people outside of the micronational community looking in that are looking to do what we are trying to do, I can't think of any other micronations that are in the same position that we are in. I can't think of any micronations that are in the position to drive this forward as much as we are. And that's both, you know, good in the sense that we're obviously on the right track, in that we're pushing forward in the right direction, but it's also a little bit scary, because the very reason that we're establishing a micronation in the first place, and this alternative society, is because we do have a series of important values and objectives that we are trying to accomplish and strive for. And without us, there just isn't anyone there. And again, this might be a very sort of pompous, self-centered thing to see, but I can't see anyone comparable. And if you can, I would be more than happy to research those micronations and reach out to them. But I just don't see it. And that is why we must succeed. It's as simple as that. So if you wanted to contribute to our development, to our expansion, and to ensure that we do succeed, then please consider becoming a part of the Stemarian community through our Patreon campaign, the link of which I shall leave in the description below as always. But if you didn't want to become a part of Stemaria directly, then please become a citizen of one of the micronations that make up Stemaria. You can do your own research, your due diligence, and find out more about the individual micronations that make up Stemaria, and you become a Stemarian citizen through the back door, I suppose. But the details of the micronations that are involved in Stemaria are also in the description. But otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.